All right, so today is the third installment of the three-part series with Summer Deaver. If you haven't already checked out the first two episodes, I highly encourage you to go and listen, as it is a progression of a deep, intimate, vulnerable conversation with Summer Deaver. But if you are joining us for the third episode today is going to be a lot about the future of the art world. We're going to be talking about what it means to transition and to express. We're also going to be talking about what it means to be learning from a positive perspective versus learning or even experimenting from a place of pain. So this is where the conversation takes it to another level, and I'm super curious to see how this resonates for you. So I'd love to hear from you guys. You can throw a comment in on the mindrise.com, or you can even put comments or feedback on each of the podcast platforms that you listen on. So sit back, enjoy, put your earbuds in, and I can't wait for you to join us in today's conversation. But in bringing in all the parts of this conversation, like, what would you say is what's next for you? Like, where are you going next?
I think it's right now, it feels like maintaining like a sustainable energy of the things I've already put in motion. So it's continuing to create art, and it's continuing to show work and just make work and work that, it looks like circles and triangles, but it is, it's about this changing dynamic in our world. So it's for me, it's a study and it's an investigation. It's like, the seeing the demise of like the hierarchy, and then really like trying to highlight that open source, decentralized part of the world that's coming about. So in cryptocurrency, and getting a little curious, and maybe I'll make an NFT or be part of an NFT fund or something in the next year. And then like it's been such a pleasure to just be mentoring people that are making impact and helping them build their communities. So like I'm really passionate about these small like micro communities where we really nurture people in those communities as the leader of like, just this one idea that we share. And yeah, seeing that, whether it's someone who's creating a green dyeing movement and, on the West Coast, or like a trauma informed, training in New York City, like these kinds of things feel really passionate, to me at this point. And yeah, maintaining a really good relationship with my partner, with my daughter, the group of friends that we have.
Well, and in so many ways, isn't that like also the I am period?
Yeah.
That maintaining, like Bruce had said, get to the top of the mountain and you really like just take it in. Not only like take in the colors and lights that you're seeing, but also take in the climb.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, like the past year has been, or 2 years has been a lot of like startups. I'm really good at startup, like in human design, I'm a manifester. So like I'm here literally to start a million projects, to put a zillion ideas into motion. But my challenge is like keeping them all going, sustaining them. So like helping other people start their projects feels like, yay, this is where I get to ignite exercise. Like I have a lot of fuel and passion for that. But when it comes to my own projects, it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna hit a bump in the road in creating work, a relationship, and all the things. So like then taking that energy of a manifester and like sort of igniting a new, that's why the 3-year plan like really works well for me.
Yeah.
That vivid vision.
Yeah.
So it's like, all of these new businesses, new like jumpstart places, they get to still have that sense of new,
right.
when when I'm committing to them for 3 years in their current incarnation.
I love it. I love it. And it's like whatever your own life cycle, your own hero's journey, whatever that pace is, right? Whatever you are doing in those 3 years.
Yeah.
Right? And your pace of 3 years could be someone's pace of 8 years,
Yeah.
someone else's pace of like 6 months. But it's like, okay, how do I both stay in my lane for the authenticity of me and the relationship that I have with me, and integrate with others and community and connections and curiosity, and apparently like AI has souls. I just like,
No, they don't have souls. That's
I know,
where
but
we're
some,
different.
I'm not ready for that. I'm not ready for that.
Don't
I'm just
worry.
not ready.
Don't worry.
I'm not ready for
But I
that.
think that's what it is. It's like
I'm a
it's also-
Flintstone, not a Jetson.
It's like when we're talking about like where we're going, it's like also leaving like half of the space open for the mystery of it. You know?
Right.
It's like, oh yeah, I want to continue with these and these and these projects. But at the same time, like 2 years ago, I would have never used NFT as like, you know, something I said I was working on or thinking
Right.
about or wanting to
Right.
be involved in. It was like not even in my field of perspective.
Right.
So yeah, like leaving room for that. You know? And it's exciting. Like life feels exciting when you think about it like that. Like, oh my God, all the people that I don't know yet. that I
Right.
get to meet and get to work with. All the concepts that I'm oblivious to in this moment, but like by this time next year or in 2 years or 3 years, like I'll have, you know, really dug deep because I love to research and read and figure things out.
I love
Ask
it.
questions, talk to smart people.
Right. And get curious.
Yeah.
Get curious and nest. It's like, it's the and. I love you.
I love you.
Yay.
So what's next for you? What does 2021 look like for you?
What does 2021 look like?
Oh wait, no,
I'm-
sorry, wait, that
I've
just
got
happened.
like a week left,
Yes.
and I don't even know what's
we
happening.
have 4 days of 2022.
Yeah.
Sleep, a little rest.
Rest. You know, it's so interesting because I've been asking myself that, and again, you've known me for a long time. I usually have it mapped out 3 years ago. And I'm right at this moment in time, which I keep defining as a pivot point that doesn't have like, this is the industrial age, like this is the digital age, like doesn't have a title yet, which would be really sweet if it did, because then you know I'm like, boom, and this is the playbook. But right now it feels like I'm very aware of the pivot point that is happening. And my work is to be super present in that pivot point, and that it's going to require like parts of myself to have, I don't know, to be on like a dimmer switch. It's not an on or off, because I can run to, I'm an intense person. I can run to extremes, but like, I don't know. And I also feel very uncomfortable not being able to give you like the exact answer and the exact plan and the exact, because we did sit down and like plan out our year, and all of those things still feel true for me, but the way in which they get executed, I think that's what's about to change. So,
I love it. That's like the good medicine.
we'll find out.
Yeah.
We'll find out. But yeah, this is interesting. So right now it's at least for me, like what's to come next. I'm like, and I can tell you it's the book, and I can tell you that. It's interesting. I had a very good conversation with a friend of mine yesterday, and she was talking about taking a sabbatical. And as I'm listening to her, it wasn't a matter of me craving a sabbatical. Like, I'm feeling real good. I don't know. Quarantine's been my sabbatical. But as she was talking about what was attracting her to take a sabbatical, or what it could look like, the thing that was dropping in our conversation for me was like, that would be an awesome thing. And I know that I could hold space for that to be a dimension of the work that I do, because I do have a tendency to work with high achievers and people that are doing 6 billion things at once, setting the world on fire. Like, and sometimes we reach a point of the apex of accomplishment and we're looking around and we don't know where we're going next, but we also know that we just don't, there's not another mountain that we want to climb at this moment, or we're just not even sure of like what mountain range or what's the next move. And as we were talking about it, I loved the concept of developing a methodology and an experience around like the sabbatical, and it being not just like, and you will be on retreat or, you know, out of office in your email for the next 3 months, 6 months, a year, but instead, like, how do we plan it? How do we and plan and, like, to your point before, like, leave space for the unknown? How do we set yourself up for a departure? Making sure that the business, everything that you have worked toward, that keeps running. How do we also, you've been running up here, like, you know, the 3 clicks of a fan, right? The highest setting. How do we bring you down so you can actually drop into the experience that you want to have in a sabbatical? What experiences do you want to have in a sabbatical? What does it then look like to transition from the experience of a sabbatical and into the next, either, I don't want to say go back because I just don't believe in that, like, but returning to of sorts, or igniting what's to come next, whatever the transition into impact. I don't exactly have words for it just yet, but it really struck me yesterday, and not as like that gold shiny squirrel, because I don't always do gold shiny squirrels that don't have like actual execution. You know, if I say I'm going to do something, I do it. And it's not an admonishment. You know, you change, you pivot, and you change your trajectory. But it really struck me. I was like, oh, I know that I can create a container for that. And it was different because it wasn't a matter of like hearing it and saying, well, shit, I need a sabbatical. Yeah, there was just something to it. So that's piquing my interest right now, of like the curiosity around what could that look like. Because I also think that when we're running on fumes, as I well know, when we're running on fumes, we're getting things done, but are we our full selves? Are we our most creative selves? Are we really tapping into even all the aspects of our intellectual capacity, our creative capacity, our curiosity capacity, our leadership capacity? I'd argue no. So, yeah. What that, is it a reset? Is it a journey? Like,
Yeah, I definitely think retreat is like a massive part of life. It's necessary.
oh, definitely.
For
It's
any
game
creator.
changer for me.
Yeah, any creative. So,
Right, and that's why I've had retreats as part of the business.
but like for you, like I would go on retreat for a month, like every year, you know, when Lula was a baby, for 12 years pretty much. And it's like, it's not like a fun retreat. There's no like cheese or wine. There's no
Well,
cool,
some.
there's no
It's gotta be
like,
cheese and wine.
there's no like beauty in nature. It like, and I'm not saying that
Right,
you can't have
right.
a valuable retreat
Yeah,
with cheese and wine.
It's and sure.
But like it was just like you're just left with yourself. Like it's only you know, you're like doing
Right.
these practices and you just like want someone outside of yourself to blame. There's no one around.
Fucked it up.
Yeah. And you get to see it though, because you know, it's like someone like moved your coffee, like that. I mean your tea or water like that. You're just like your stuff is coming up.
Right.
So, like,
Right.
so tiny, but you just know it's all your own.
Right. It's interesting. Like, I follow Aubrey Marcus, and I want to say,
Whatever that is.
oh, he He's best known. So he has been in business with Joe Rogan and has a podcast called like the Aubrey Marcus podcast or show or whatever. He was the CEO and founder of On It, which was like supplements and such. And then he had that mastermind retreat, or has a mastermind called Fit for Service. And I went on his retreat in Tulum February before the pandemic really like brought everything to a halt. But anyway, he had done a period of time, I want to say like a week. It was not a month, but and it wasn't a day, but it really was something that challenged himself in the darkness. And I'm probably butchering all the details, but like, I want to say like, when the sun was up, like he was out and about, but he was alone and, didn't have a reliance on technology or electricity or anything, just like had to be with himself for whatever period of time, 2 weeks. I don't recall. I probably shouldn't even talk about it, not like knowing what all the details were, but he's also done stuff with like Wim Hof and like so an attraction to some of those extremes and just like those different dimensions of himself. It's an interesting person, but I don't crave that. I don't crave to go into complete darkness or at this moment in time and like find the depths of myself based on that level of struggle. I also don't think that that's the only way in which we become related to ourselves, right? Or develop an understanding of ourselves is just that one way.
I think it's like a dissolving of the self, more than an understanding of the self. Yeah, I think those like deep inner retreats are really just to go beyond, like to explore, like, why are we here? What's the purpose?
Right.
My human capacity.
It's interesting though that even in quarantine, and like I was me and Phoebes, like
You're like on an island off an island.
I'm on an island off an island, right. And it's like I can, and to your point about like bypassing, like if we focus on gratitude and all the things that we have, and like which are all true, and there were depths and points in myself in which I became acquainted to that I was probably past versions of myself too busy to have listened to or become acquainted with. And what I recognize, or maybe I'm still processing, is that there have been parts of what I might at this moment in time define as suffering, like my suffering, that I would put a period on. Like I was molested, period. Or like this sucks, period. Or I'm getting a divorce, period. Or I'm, dealing with relationship bullshit in which I feel unseen, unheard, unmet, period. And I would say from that time alone, and it wasn't like in the dark or it's submerged in a cold tub alone.
I don't know. COVID gave everybody a little dark retreat.
Dark retreat. Because I was like still momming and parenting and working, but in those times like mornings and nights by myself and like really like having conversations with myself, I realized that a comma is so essential for healing because there's so much more to the story than where I at that time was cutting it off at. Because to your point before, like if I identify myself as like, I am suffering, period, or like this relationship is tearing me, this person is tearing me from limb to limb, period, I am missing out on a lot. And again, it's not an admonishment, it's an awareness of where I was and who I was. So now when I recognize, right, the somatic experience and the intellectual experience, what I can be conscious to, that I'm experiencing distress or feelings of suffering, I try to look at like, where's my comma? And like, have I put a period on that? Where's my comma? And not in an effort to bypass it, or to like, it's one of my very favorite people says, like, turn a shit sandwich into a sugar cookie. Because like, you can't turn a shit sandwich into a sugar cookie. I was like, well, girlfriend, you're right. But just like inviting in all the parts of myself.
Yeah.
That comment.
Like going spelunking in the darkness of the shadow and like coming up with gems.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like that's what it feels like to me nowadays. Is like, all right, I can definitely go into all that shadowy stuff, but I'm coming out with gems.
Right.
You know, like I'm gonna go into it. It doesn't maybe last as long as it used to. You know,
Right.
feeling it, really like feeling it more than I've ever felt it. Coming out with something, you know.
Right. It's funny because I know that we've got to wrap up, but it's, I know we could easily pack a lunch for you all
I
day.
feel like we might have tried to wrap up a few times.
I know,
already.
I know. Well, this necklace that I'm wearing, I got from my friend Christine yesterday, and it's called a wish bead necklace.
That's
I don't know
beautiful.
if that one, let's show it. So it screws, the bottom like screws up, and they give you these papers, and you're supposed to like put your wish in here,
Aw.
right? And then you like carry it around with you. So another version of myself would just like write something down. First of all, I'd feel the urgency to like come up with it immediately and like write that thing down immediately. And like, okay, I did
it.
I
Check
did
it.
it.
Check it the box.
Right. I did the assignment. I put it in there, and like, and that was my definition of like knowing myself. And this version of who I am at this moment, kind of like, oh, cool, opportunity. Like, let me sit with it. What comes up? Like, and I'm still also having conversations with the part of myself that's just like, you should know the answer. You need to know the answer. You should put an answer right in there. What are you just walking around with this empty wish? Empty wish? Are you kidding? Right? And it's just like like both versions of myself are wrestling, and I'm inviting in like, what would it look like to like sit with it? What would it look like to create a ritual? And then there's that other part, that another like a
What
third
if-
person
What if,
to get it right.
what if a wish doesn't come for an entire year? What if you just wear that without a wish? I mean,
Did you want to give me a coronary?
no. I really, I like really believe in like dreams and visions and
Right,
you know,
right.
wishes. And I think it's kind of, you know, even if it's a fairy tale to you, it's definitely something that keeps hope alive. Yeah, makes your day a little bit
You're also
better.
Pisces, my friend.
Yeah.
My little dreamy friend. But yeah, so it's like I'm sitting with all these versions of myself that's like, don't fuck it up, get it right. Like, this should have been done yesterday, or you don't know what the hell you're doing. And then this part that's emerging, that's saying, and I'm not saying that that's the best version of myself. That's just who's at the table right now. That's saying like, let's sit with this.
Yeah.
Let's see what emerges. Maybe you need a ritual. What would a ritual look like? Do you have sage? It's got to be a full moon. But when's the next full moon? Let me research that.
That's what lasted a week, according to you yesterday.
It's been a week-long full moon.
Yeah, I've seen so much of that part of you also emerging in the past like couple years, and just taking off and being in the Outer Banks like by yourself for the past 2 years almost. You know, it's been, because prior you're just like, you know, you're everywhere. Like I would go to the coffee shop and like you're there, and then at night like here, and then you know like we meet up at the Asbury Hotel and like working, and you know.
Right.
And yeah, there's just like been this really beautiful way that I've witnessed you as your friend, just like really, yeah, coming from this really deep and authentic place, and loving yourself and showing up in ways that are, yeah, like that, not writing the wish,
Thanks,
not filling space, you know, like
Right. And
letting it come.
it's funny because I appreciate that reflection, and I will receive that. Like that version of myself that was like flying every month and on stage and and at the networking event, or also at the coffee shop, and also like there was nothing wrong with that
No.
version of myself. And a
Not at
critical,
all.
like a critical eye, if I wanted to examine with a critical eye, one could say that there was like, was there some suffering, or was there something I was running from? Like, and I'm sure we could look at everything with a critical eye, right? I could like look at my car and say like, you know, wow, that like has four wheels and gets me to where I need to go. Or I could say like, well, that's where I was hit with a grocery cart, and like that's when I like dragged the, you know, dishwasher out of the trunk or whatever, and like scratched that. Like you could look at anything with multiple lenses. But I don't know, maybe something like, is this the beauty of age and wisdom, or like relationship to self? I don't know. That's what I keep coming back to.
Yeah.
And this is for
Yeah,
this
it's
period
kinda
of time.
like what feels like it's coming through, like this whole podcast, you know,
Right.
this whole recording. It's like, yeah, what's your relationship to yourself? And
Right.
like that's all I witnessed. There's nothing
Right.
wrong with like the bee that's on stage all the time, like all over the place and
Right.
doing that. It's just like this part of you that I'm witnessing. It's like, oh yeah, spending a lot of beautiful time with Phoebe.
And isn't that an evolution too, right? Like wearing pants, right? Just corsets to pants. It's like you can still wear corsets,
Yeah,
and you got these pants
yeah.
and
I
the right
love
to
that.
vote.
Yeah, I love that like our kids are growing up like, what do you mean like it wasn't okay to be trans? Or what do you mean like people were persecuted for being gay?
Right.
Like, I don't know what that even, why?
Right.
You know, like I
Right.
love that. You know.
Yeah. I mean, even Phoebe told me the other day, which I like loved this moment. She said, Mama, we're gay together. And I was like,
Oh hell yeah.
I'm like,
Phoebe.
bring it on. Explain this to me.
So
She
good.
said, well, we're both girls and we both love each other. She's like, and I love rainbows. And I was just like, oh my God, I love everything about this conversation. That like, you know, and I don't know that that was part of my vernacular, nor was it something that when growing up, like people felt comfortable in, could identify, like there wasn't like shame. And a great conversation with a friend of mine, her nephew had come out, and he's young, you know, 10, 12 years old, young. And she said it just feels like a really beautiful time for like, to him, gay means acceptance and rainbows and like being your whole self. She, it's amazing what a couple of decades can do. A shift in culture. So again, I want to believe that what we're experiencing is happening for us.
Yeah. In any moment, there's always another way to see something. Yeah. Let's choose.
All right, we're wrapping up.
All right, that's it.
That's it.